Welcome to Echoes of Love. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, betrayal, and the thirst for revenge that will leave you questioning everything. But be warned, once you step into this world, there's no turning back. If you're hooked, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story of love and vengeance. And if you have your own, share it in the comments. We might just turn your real-life tale into a video, with your name featured. Let's dive in. I never forgot the day I woke up to find my tendons severed and my hands dangling uselessly, salt water burning through every cut while Ethan Reed watched with cold satisfaction. My screams echoed in that basement, but what broke me wasn't the pain, it was his voice, laughing. "Emily Warren, this ending is what you brought on yourself." That was the moment I wanted to die. That was the moment I thought my story was over. But when I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in the basement. I wasn't broken, bleeding, or ruined. I was at the banquet the day my parents asked me to choose my fiancé. And standing there, smiling proudly like victory was already his, was Ethan Reed, the man who destroyed everything I loved. I froze, my chest tightening. My mother's gentle hand brushed mine as she whispered, "Emily, have you decided who you want to marry?" In my past life, I had chosen Ethan without hesitation, blinded by childhood affection. That choice cost me my father, my mother, my daughter, and my own soul. But this time would be different. I raised my hand and pointed straight at Nathan Reed, Ethan's older brother, the careless young master no one took seriously. The banquet hall fell silent. Laughter died in throats. Even Nathan, lounging with his usual lazy grin, turned to me in disbelief. "Me?" he muttered, half amused. But I didn't flinch. "Yes," I said firmly. "I want him." The room erupted in whispers. Faces turned pale. And Ethan stormed forward, grabbing my arms so hard I nearly cried out. His voice was a blade. "Emily Warren, are you insane? You'd humiliate me for this? All because of that girl? You still refuse to kneel for Candy?" At the mention of her name, my blood ran cold. Candy, the poor scholarship girl who had once saved Ethan's life. The girl he worshipped. The girl whose name was carved into his madness. The girl he loved enough to torture me to death. I yanked my hand free. "Yes," I said, my voice sharp enough to cut. "I refuse, and I will never choose you." His face twisted, disbelief and fury mingling. But before he could speak again, Nathan stepped in, tilting his chin lazily, his fist slamming into Ethan's stomach. "Get lost. Stay away from my fiancé." Ethan collapsed to the floor, humiliated in front of everyone. And I, without looking back, let Nathan take my hand and lead me away. For the first time into lifetimes, I felt a breath of freedom. Outside the banquet, I trembled, gasping for air. Nathan glanced at me, frowning. "What's with you? Crying now? You were the one who chose me." His voice was mocking, careless. But I wasn't listening to his tone. I was staring at his face, the mouth, the eyes, the shape I had seen before. My daughter's face, Anna's face. My heart squeezed so tight I thought I'd collapse. In my past life, Ethan told me my daughter was the product of a mistake, a shameful night with Nathan's illegitimate brother. But as I looked at Nathan now, I understood the truth. Anna wasn't Ethan's child at all. She was Nathan's. The realization shattered me, but I hid it. I wiped my tears and whispered, "Thank you." Nathan blinked in surprise, coughing awkwardly as he turned away. Chi, don't thank me. You'll regret choosing me soon enough." But I knew I wouldn't. Not this time. That night, Ethan came to my home with Candy clinging to his arm, her eyes wide with false innocence. "Emily," he began stiffly, "I was wrong. I lost my temper. Candy is here to apologize." She stepped forward, bowing her head sweetly. "It's all my fault. Ethan only pitied me. Please don't misunderstand." I stared at her, this girl who had played victim so well in my past life, whose tears had become the blade that cut my family to pieces. Now I saw the truth behind her trembling lips, and I laughed. "Pitiful," I said coldly, settling back into my chair. "Lily, peel me an apple." The maid hesitated. I glanced at her sharply. "Remember whose house this is." Ethan's face darkened. "Emily, enough. Why are you so jealous of Candy? Do you have to humiliate her like this?" "Jealous?" I rose slowly, My eyes locked on his. I have wealth, power, beauty. Why would I ever be jealous of a poor girl in knockoff clothes? My hand shot up before I thought twice, and my palm cracked across Candy's cheek. Gasps echoed in the room. Ethan rushed to shield her, but my other hand landed squarely across his face. One for each of you, I said coldly. Now get out. The Warren family doesn't welcome you anymore. Ethan's jaw trembled with rage. Candy clutched his sleeve with teary eyes, whispering, "It's all my fault." "Don't be angry, Ethan. I'll kneel for her. I'll give her my life if it will make her forgive you." She dropped to her knees at my doorstep, her voice breaking with fake devotion. I watched from upstairs, lips curling. "Pathetic," I whispered. For the first time, I wasn't the one on the floor. The next day, Nathan called me. His voice was calm, amused. "Miss Warren, since you clearly despise my brother now, why don't we make a deal? Marry me. I'll help you take him down." I hesitated. In my past life, dragging Nathan into this war would have made him another victim. But when I thought of Anna, my sweet girl who never lived to see the truth, my hesitation vanished. "All right," I said. "Deal." That night, at the gathering, I brought Nathan as my partner. When Ethan saw us enter, his eyes went red with rage. "Emily, are you trying to humiliate me? Using my bastard brother to provoke me?" I didn't answer, but when he sneered at Nathan, calling him shameless trash, I stood, my hand flying before I even thought. The crack of my slap silenced the room. Everyone stared. Ethan staggered, his cheek red with my handprint. Me, the obedient Emily Warren, the girl who once loved him like the sun had struck him without hesitation. "Are you done?" I asked coldly. Candy leapt up, her voice trembling. "Emily, you've gone too far. Ethan has always loved you. You're heartless to slap him for an illegitimate son. You're only arrogant because you were born into privilege. If I had your background, I'd treasure Ethan forever." I turned and laughed. The sound was sharp and merciless. "Treasure? Then treasure him yourself." And for the first time, Ethan had no words. I didn't want months of slow, polite payback. I wanted one clean cut that bled his pride. So that night, I brought Nathan to the club and let the room heat with stares. When Ethan barked at me, I set a single wine glass in front of him, dark, sweet, strong, and smiled like I forgave him. Candy grabbed it first, eager to prove her loyalty, and drained it in one gulp. I leaned to Natalie and murmured, "Now." 10 minutes later, the private room door flew open to a chorus of shocked gasps. Clothes tangled, limbs scrambling, Ethan stammering, Candy flushed and needy, clinging. I didn't blink. Nathan's hand covered my eyes anyway. "Don't dirty them," he said softly. I laughed and walked out before Ethan could say, "It's not what it looks like." By morning, the photos were everywhere, blurred faces, blurred morals, crystal clear humiliation. The Reed family scrambled, calls to reporters, hush money, statements about misunderstandings. Aunt Reed rang me with a trembling voice, begging me to meet Ethan, to be sensible. My mother slid a note under my door, "Sweetheart, whatever you decide, we ray with you," and my father left warm soup on my desk. Like I was still his little girl who came home from piano practice with freezing hands. I stared at the steam and promised myself I would not waste this second life on tears. I would draw a smooth line, through truth, through the lies, through the man I used to love. In the days after the scandal, I started to dig. Nathan didn't ask why, I think he already knew. We met in quiet corners, trading whispers like contraband. I learned how his parents had run for love, how the family dragged them back, how his mother died on the road, how his father withered in silence, how the patriarch married a second wife to plug a bleeding dynasty. And I learned the ugliest rumor, the one that curdled every childhood memory. The illegitimate child everyone mocked wasn't Nathan. It might be Ethan. The truth tasted metallic on my tongue. I didn't gloat. I didn't cheer. I just felt the steady burn of justice warming my bones. If I was going to cut, I would cut clean. The Reed patriarch's birthday arrived like a stage light. Aunt Reed spotted me the second I stepped in and rushed over with frantic smiles. "Emily, he's not that kind of boy. Please see him. He hasn't eaten for a week." My parents stood behind me like a wall. They said nothing, but I felt their breath at my back. I went upstairs alone. Ethan turned at the sound of the door and flinched like a scolded dog. His hands were raw from scrubbing. "I'm clean," he whispered, holding out broken skin as proof. For a heartbeat, I saw the boy who used to chase fireflies with me, the one who swore he'd never let me cry. Then I remembered salt water and sewn tendons and the taste of ash on my tongue. "Downstairs," I said. "Your grandfather is waiting." He followed me like a shadow, hope already rewriting history in his head. The hall hummed with expectation. Ethan straightened, chin lifted, certain the announcement belonged to him. I took one step sideways, out of his reach. The patriarch cleared his throat, voice thin and solemn. "To honor family and future, the Reeds and the Warrens will join in marriage. My grandson Nathan Reed will be engaged to Miss Emily Warren." The room cracked open. 100 eyes swung to me. Then to Nathan sauntering down the stairs with a lazy smile that didn't reach his watchful eyes. Ethan grabbed my arm, desperate. "You're angry. Don't do this." I pried his fingers off. "I choose," I said, clear and steady. "Our wedding is July 7th. You're welcome to attend." Then softer, so only he could hear. "Ask your grandfather about your mother. Ask him why your father never loved his wife." We didn't get far before the first scream. A waiter lunged from the shadows with a glint of metal. I barely had time to pull Nathan behind me before Ethan moved like instinct, knocking the knife aside, sending the attacker tumbling down the steps. The body hit the marble with a sick crack. When she rolled over, I recognized the angry eyes through their burns. "Candy." She clutched her stomach and wailed, "My child. You tried to kill my child." The room spun. Aunt Reed shrieked for an ambulance. Ethan stood frozen, breath ragged, eyes tearing toward mine as if I could rewrite what everyone had just seen. While sirens screamed closer, the next knife came out mine. Not metal, a recording. Nathan's friend, silver-haired and smiling like a storm in a tailored suit, stepped into the foyer and tapped his phone. Candy's voice spilled into the hall, bright with contempt. Buying rumor mills, faking theft accusations, calculating pity like interest on a loan. What's this little money next to becoming Mrs. Reed? Ethan's a fool his mother coddled into uselessness. The words cracked over marble, over portraits, over the old man's grief. Aunt Reed's fingers slipped from Candy's wrist. Ethan's mouth hung open like a boy who just learned fire hurts. The hospital smelled like bleach and endings. Hours passed before the verdict staggered out. The child was gone. The damage was worse. The future had been cut away along with Candy's womb. Aunt Reed swung at my mother with a shaking hand and a single word, "murder," hotter than her slap. My mother went very still, then answered with a clean, burning strike. "Your son believed rumors and tried to break my daughter. You call to shame her, but can't control your own boy." My father didn't touch anyone. He just stepped forward and looked at the patriarch until the old man bowed his head and said, "Enough." The Reed family owes the Warren family an apology. For once, the room held. Candy woke and lunged at me, spitting blame, spitting poison, and Ethan pulled her back with a hoarse sound that barely qualified as a voice. "The one who kicked you was me," he said, shaking. "Hate me." He stared at me then, eyes flooded with 1,000 words. He'd never spoken. I didn't hate him for that moment of instinct. I hated him for everything he chose before and after. "Ethan," I said quietly, "you ask for forgiveness like it's a coin I left on a table. My daughter is dead in every life I remember. There is no price for that." He flinched as if struck. And for a heartbeat, I wondered if somewhere deep down he still knew how to love anything without breaking it first. Consequences finally arrived. Like winter, Aunt Reed was exiled from the house. She ruled like a queen, and Ethan was left with his last name and nothing else. Candy tried a dozen doorways and found none open. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. I had other vows to keep. Nathan and I chose a ring, simple and bright. He teased the jeweler until the man laughed and slipped us an extra velvet box for luck. At night, Nathan and I met on empty sidewalks, steam from street vendors rising like ghosts while we compared list assets, allies, next cuts to make clean. He never asked me to love him. He just matched my stride and watched the corners and lent me his silence when my hands began to shake, remembering a child who would never hold my fingers again. On the morning papers, the Reed family painted their story in soft, forgiving tones. Online, strangers argued in neat little boxes, branding me cold, branding me cruel, branding me right, branding me wrong. I learned not to read every comment, only to count heartbeats. Mine steady, Nathan's unhurried beside me. When the patriarch finally called privately to say, "We will restore the truth about Nathan's mother," I closed my eyes and let that tiny light land where it could. The night before my wedding, the city felt hushed, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. I was in the dressing room hours early, smoothing satin I didn't deserve in a life I had fought to keep. I thought of Anna and whispered her name like a prayer I didn't know how to finish. The door clicked. I expected JoJo with her loud laugh, or my mother with a pocket full of tissues. Instead, Ethan stepped inside thinner, hollow-eyed, clutching a dozen apologies that tangled and fell at his feet. "Emily," he said, voice raw, "lately I have a dream. In it, I marry you. In it, I cut your tendons. In it, I drive your father to his death and your mother to the roof. In it, I make you swallow ashes. I wake up sick. Tell me it's just a dream." My hand found the back of the chair, steadying. I didn't sob. I didn't rage. I watched the boy and the man fight in his eyes like a storm ripping a tree from the roots. "Do you want mercy?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "I want you to tell me there is a way to fix what I broke." He took one step toward me, desperate and shaking. "Tell me what to do." The knife in his hand gleamed under the bridal lights, but he wasn't pointing it at me. He turned it inward, pressing the edge against his own chest, trembling. "Emily, if this is the only way you'll forgive me, then let it end here." My breath caught not from fear, but from the bitter irony. In my first life, he had cut me apart piece by piece and begged me to live. Now he was begging to die by his own hand. I didn't scream. I didn't rush forward. I only stepped closer until the steel pressed a fraction deeper into his skin. "Ethan Reed," I whispered, "you always thought life and death were currencies you could spend. But forgiveness isn't bought with blood. My daughter is gone. My parents were broken. I carried scars you'll never see. Tell me, how does one knife erase that?" He shuddered, his grip loosening. For the first time, I saw terror, not rage, not pride, not obsession, but raw terror in his eyes. "Then curse me," he rasped. "Curse me forever if you must. Just don't leave me with silence." His knees buckled. Blood spread across white silk. The door slammed open. Nathan's shadow filled the room, and I collapsed into his chest as if the weight of 2 lives had finally found its resting place. Ethan slumped on the floor, gasping. "Emily, tell me what it takes." I looked down at him, my voice sharp as glass. "I already told you. I will never forgive you." His eyes went wide, and for a second, he almost laughed, a broken, breathless sound. He didn't die. The knife missed his heart, and the doctors dragged him back to a hollow existence. But when I walked down the aisle, it wasn't his hand in mine. It was Nathan's, warm, steady, trembling only when the priest asked the question that mattered most. His lips quivered, his eyes wet, but his voice never faltered. "I do." The hall blurred. For a heartbeat, I was no longer in lace and satin but standing in the snow of Yun City, the second snowfall, the moment my first life ended. I saw myself screaming, broken, begging for death, and beside that ghost, I saw the girl I once was, foolish and devoted to a man who would never deserve it. Both vanished as I gripped Nathan's hand tighter. When my turn came, the words surged like water I had held back for a decade. "I do." Cheers erupted, but my chest was quiet, almost reverent. Nathan bent his head, murmuring, "You chose me when no one else ever did. You don't know what that means." His voice cracked. I pressed my forehead to his, smiling through tears. "I know, because in the end, you chose me too." Outside, word spread like wildfire. The illegitimate son, the unwanted heir, had become the Reed family's future. Ethan's screams echoed through hospital walls when he learned, cursing me, cursing Nathan, cursing the fate he could never escape. Candy never returned. Her voice was swallowed by the same silence she once wished for me. Aunt Reed lived in exile, her name only whispered in pity. But I did not celebrate their downfall. I stood on the balcony of my new home, feeling the cool wind on my face, remembering Anna's laughter. My daughter's smile haunted me, but now it felt less like a wound and more like a promise that in this life, her memory would not be drowned in ashes. At night, Nathan and I sat together, sometimes talking, sometimes in silence. He told me of the years when he was called a bastard, when doors closed in his face, when his stepmother's cruelty shoved him into darkness. He told me of the one girl who smiled at him in childhood, who never once called him illegitimate. "You were light, Emily," he said quietly, even before you knew it. I held his hand, the same hand I once dismissed at the banquet, and whispered, "And you were strength, even when you didn't believe it." The city outside was loud with gossip, scandal, and revenge, but inside our walls, there was something else. Not forgiveness, not yet, but healing, and that was enough.